This is My First Job in Sports, the show created to kickstart your journey toward a successful career in the sports industry. Presented by SBRnet, your comprehensive source for data focused on sports fans and more. Here's your host of My First Job in Sports, Neil Schwartz.
Hey, this is Neil, together with my co-host, Dr. Ashley Gardner from Temple University. Dr. G, say hello.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, and this is what I call Get in the Game edition of My First Job in Sports. Our guest today is going to be Demarieh Wesley. He is a graduate of Hampton University, which coincidentally is also the alma mater of Dr. G. You want to talk a little bit about Hampton?
Yeah, I did a little bit of home cooking, but Hampton University, the illustrious Hampton University, our home by the sea, it was a fantastic experience, and I'm so excited to hear about Demarieh's experience because he actually went through Hampton during COVID.
Sure.
And so that's going to be very unique perspective to get from. So Hampton was fantastic. I love it, and I will always give everything back to my beloved alma mater.
I don't want to give away too much of what we talked about with Demarieh because that is coming up. But, I found it incredibly interesting. He got very involved in things and he really immersed himself into the experience, which, by the way, is something that I would encourage any college student to do. Something I would encourage any student to do. I mean, we talk about, information and education and motivation and navigation to get into the sports business. Well, he did all of those things. Mm-hmm. And it really, personally, I think he, in a lot of ways, is a real role model. And I think, students, everybody needs a good role model. Dr. G, did you have a role model just out of curiosity growing up or as you were in, deciding about going, becoming an educator or going into the sports business?
Yeah, I actually had some incredible mentors from Hampton University.
Really? Who was?
And so my professor, as he mentions, he's going to mention his professors. My professor, Dr. Aaron Livingston and Dr. Chevelle Hall, they were the first two people that told me, Ashley, I understand that you want to go into the sport industry, but you're an educator. You need to go and get your PhD. And so it stuck with me, even though I didn't believe them at first until about 5-6 years down the line, they were right. So They are still here with me and they are so very proud of me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, you are a great educator. And, I did have the pleasure this week of being a guest speaker in 2 of your classes.
Yes.
And, I want to thank you for inviting me in. That is one of those things I love doing.
I can tell.
I love engaging with the students. You saw I was just picking on kids, even though they didn't raise their hand.
It was great.
I never considered myself like a teacher or a natural teacher, but people have told me that, my style just, look, I'm very outgoing, and I'm just not afraid of anything. If somebody has an answer, I'll go to the next person. So,
and that's what
but
you
we
need.
want to start a new segment on My First Job in Sports, and it's called Neil's Data Dump. As you know, I'm president of SBRnet, Sports Business Research Network. We do amazing research focused on sports fandom. So we measure sports fans, and for our first edition or our first installment of Neil's Data Dump, I want to talk a little bit about something that actually surprised me. When we got our brand new data back a couple of weeks ago, there was something that just dropped right off the page. For a long time, the Dallas Cowboys have been considered America's team. And as a Philadelphia guy, boy, I hated that. Nothing stuck in my craw worse than that. Well, I've got news for you. Based on the data from this year, from the most recent fandom study, the Dallas Cowboys have been knocked off the perch as America's team. That title or crown now goes to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Wow.
They have done an amazing job. Obviously, Travis Kelce dating Taylor Swift didn't hurt anything. But the one thing that I noticed very quickly when I looked at the data is that, number one, the Kansas City Chiefs have been able to really increase their female fans. And that is something that, all sports really need to look at. That's a kind of a real target-rich environment. Female sports fans, they bring a lot to the whole fandom situation. But the other thing that jumped out at me was that the Kansas City Chiefs are doing an amazing job with the Gen Z, younger fans. And again, did Taylor Swift probably have a lot to do with that? Yeah, she probably did. But again, they took advantage of the situation. They leveraged, the environment they were in, and they have knocked off the Dallas Cowboys as America's team. So, for the first edition of Neil's Data Dump, that's what we're going to talk about. We've got a lot of other Great topics that we're going to, get into. Today's guest is Demarieh Wesley from Hampton University, but also now with the New Jersey Devils. We'll get into that a little bit later. But I know you also attended Dr. G's alma mater, and I'm going to let Dr. G and you kind of do a little bit of a Hampton University. But you know what, Demarieh, rather than have me talk a little bit about your background, why don't you talk about your background and a little bit about what you're doing now, and just kind of give us the Demarieh bio, so to speak.
Okay, for sure. I'll start with my Hampton intro. I know Dr. G knows about that. But how's everybody doing today? My name is Demarieh Wesley. I'm a graduate of Hampton University. Got my bachelor's in sports management, and just kind of on campus. I was involved in a lot. I was a Division I athlete. I played lacrosse as well. I was a part of a fraternity, the Gamma Iota chapter of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And then I also got involved for Student Government Association for 2 years as I was director of external athletics my first year, and then the director of athletics my senior year. I was also a part of a organization on campus called the Greer Dawson Wilson Student Leadership Program. I was also a co-facilitator as that as well. And like I said, I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. I pretty much played sports my whole life. That's where I kind of got my idea of wanting to work in sports. I saw my dad. I went to work for him one day at the IRS. I'm like, I don't think I want to do this. I just want to find something I genuinely enjoy waking up and doing every day. And I think the main thing was sports. I think for the longest time, I was really trying to figure out, what it would be, because like I said, I played sports my whole life, but I'm 5'8", probably heading into college. I was probably like 160. So I knew my dreams of going professional was real slim. So I was like, I think a wise man told me one time, he was like, you want to be the person, writing the checks or getting the checks. So that kind of steers me towards the business side. And, I'm really driven on family, and that's kind of what keeps me going to this day. And now I'm here working with the New Jersey Devils as inside sales associate.
So, Demarieh, obviously, I want to go back to your time at Hampton University, because we both attended and graduated from the illustrious Hampton University, and we got our bachelor's in sport management. And, there's a lot of society that criticizes the idea of even attending an HBCU, talking about how it's not realistic. You need to be in a PWI environment to prepare for the industry. But I'm here with a PhD in sport management and Olympic level sport experience to tell you that's false. That's not true. That's fake news. And so I want you, Demarieh, to talk to them and tell them why that's false, because you're now working full-time in sports, and you did that going to an HBCU. So can you talk about how did going to an HBCU, specifically Hampton University, prepare you for the industry? You could talk about the skills you were taught and developed that you're applying now in your first job in sports.
No, I can definitely go into a little bit more. I just think, just a quick background. Before I got my offer, I pretty much knew nothing about Hampton, didn't know where it was at, but I ended up finding out that my aunt ended up going there and didn't finish. So I think me finishing also kind of gave her like a validation, like, even though, you didn't do it, I did it for us and for the family. So that was pretty cool. And I think it's always just a great experience of, being around a lot of, minorities, like African-American individuals with the same mindset of same growth of, we're here to enjoy the college experience. And mine was pretty different from most. My freshman year was COVID, so I was still at home, and that could have steered a lot of people away. I remember my parents asking me like, hey, you want to think about transferring and, staying at home? I'm like, no, I can, work out this 1 year virtual, and, hopefully the campus opens up my sophomore year, and then I got that opportunity. So I can speak for my class. We wanted to get that true Hampton experience in college feel as well, but also making sure being able, to handle business. And I think at Hampton, one thing I really noticed that also kind of just moved me forward to the school and even my fraternity, that I think all the students there have a good balance of, want to have that school-like balance of wanting to having a good time, but also making sure we handle the business at the same time. And I think this faculty and staff understood that as well. And I think I learned a lot just kind of even speaking on the Hampton intro and introducing myself to anybody. It's like, hey, my name is Demarieh Wesley. I'm from this university, got my major in this. And, kind of just going a little bit of synopsis about myself, kind of, that quick elevator pitch as well. And also the stigma of just, Hampton is where you going and, the flash, you got to look good, your outfits, so, you got to wear suits. I think after I crossed my fraternity, I had to wear a suit on Tuesday, I had to wear a suit on Wednesday and Thursday. And it just kind of translate over to like my everyday now working with the Devils, where I have to, every game that we have, I'm wearing a suit and tie, and I would kind of say I have the best suits in the office. I'm always getting complimented on my suits every day, not just by by my colleagues, but the fans as well. But I just think overall, a 10 gauge shoe is what you make it. I believe, anybody that has that opportunity to, go and excel, it's what you make it. And, even if you feel like the resources aren't there, that's when you kind of, reach out to your professors. I know I reached out to Dr. Charlton a lot. He always, mentioned me as well. I know kind of when I got into sales itself, he always said, hey, D, man, I think I can really see you in sales. I can really see you in sales. And then when I graduated in the summer and I worked at Chicago Bulls as a membership service associate, I did my onboarding with their inside sales class. So it kind of gave me, a little bit of a background of to see what that industry would be like, and even got to hop on the phone towards the end of my time there and ended up getting a job with the Devils. And, really can't harp on enough that Hampton really prepared me for this life after college to make sure I'm selling in my future careers.
There's so many things I'd like to unpack from, your bio, but there's two things that really did stand out to me. Number one, you were really involved in a lot of extracurricular type activities. Talk about those activities and how they really help to shape the person that you are right now.
I actually went into Hampton knowing that I didn't want to just be known as Demarieh, the lacrosse player. So, like I said, my knowledge of Hampton was really slim to none. So I kind of had to come in and see, a lot about what was there to offer to me. Like as a sophomore, I joined a fraternity, and as soon as after I did that, I was like, now I don't want to just be, Demarieh, the lacrosse player, and an alpha. So I decided to join the Student Government Association, where my dean, the person that brought me in, Tobias Wilson, he was the SGA president. He asked me, did I want to be on his cabinet for the athletic side? And me and my line brother ended up deciding he did the internal, I did the external work. So I was more so trying to figure out how, as a campus, we can kind of bring that involvement back around with sports. So that was creating different theme nights, seeing how we get the campus more involved, come and show support to the different organizations as well. And then I decided to also that same year get involved in the student leadership program. And they are basically probably the biggest org on campus when it comes to campus involvement, because they're running homecoming, they're running Spring Fest, a lot of the events on campus, they're running elections. So I felt where, we're getting a representation everywhere where I can say I had my hand in helping out in this. And then my senior year, that's when I decided to go for the co-facilitator position, where basically I would be, one of the 14 actually, being spearheading, making sure everything is kind of flowing, and basically the second in charge in front of our higher up. So
when did you find time to sleep?
Really none. But I think that goes into being able to multitask and be able to be in multiple places at once, because I feel as, in the real world, you kind of have excuses to either, slack off, or, if you got it, you might have a task like, hey, I got to make a call here at 12, but we also got a meeting with my manager at 12:30. So sometimes you kind of got to, work and pivot and maneuver throughout different obstacles and situations. So, I'm grateful for that position. I actually said life slowed down for me once I left Hampton, because all I have to do is get up, go to work. And I'm like, that's it. That's all I have to do. Nothing else. Just go to work and make sure I'm staying in shape and eating right. So, just with all the organizations that I joined, I had a great experience. I think I learned so much, and I think it just prepared me to being able to be in multiple places at once and handle those multiple tasks, and making sure that you're divvying out the same energy in one org that you're giving us another one.
So what I'm hearing, Demarieh, is that you grinded. Like you said, you didn't sleep. That's another thing that Hampton University kind of taught you, was that work ethic. And can you talk about the work ethic that's necessary from a college student all the way down to being a full-time employee to work in sports? Because clearly for you, it did not start. That work ethic that you have did not start when you became that sales associate. It started freshman year and maybe even before that. So can you just talk about what's necessary to work in sports?
I think what is necessary to work in sports is your will and drive, and just to, be okay when working those late nights. Like, just for example, yesterday, I work we have two offices because we're partnered with the 76ers, our parent company. So I work in our Camden, New Jersey office, which is closer to Philly. That's where I reside. But then for every home game, we have to go up to Newark. So that's an hour 30 drive up, an hour 30 drive down back. So in instance of yesterday, got to work at 9 o'clock. We left to go to the Prudential Center at 11, had meetings, got lunch, game day meeting at 4 o'clock, doors open at 6, game starts at 7:30. Go through the game. We usually leave 10 minutes in the third period. So we left probably like around 9:30. Got home. It was 11 o'clock, packed. Got probably an hour, 30 minutes of sleep. Had to get up, get on the flight, and now I'm here on this call. So I think when it comes to the work ethic, it's something that you have to have within you. It's nothing that can be taught. I'm kind of in the mindset of if you have it and you don't. And if like you don't have it, I will help, you to push you there, but I can't want it more than you. So when it comes to work ethic, it's just where you want to see yourself further down the line. I know where I want to be. I know the people around me where they want to be. So I'm going to hold them to that same standard. So my whole mindset is if you want to get to somewhere you got to be, you got to put in the work. You got to put in those extra hours. Speaking for sales, it's one of those jobs where, you work from 9 to 5, but I try to get in 8:30. I'm not leaving till 5:30. And sometimes I might stay till 6. I got a client I'm really trying to put over the line. He was like, I can't get on the phone till 7 o'clock. Having a risk, maybe going to go watch a basketball game with some friends. Like, I got to go talk to a client, try to get this sale over the edge. So, especially me being a 22 years old, not really in anything really that's holding me down. I can use this now and grind out the hard work right now so it can be easier later. And I remember my dad telling me my freshman year of high school, he was like, the better you do your freshman year of high school, it'll be easier once you get your senior year. And I started out real strong, probably had like a 3.8 at the beginning of end of my freshman year, and then probably finished high school with a 3.6. So it just kind of put me in a better position when I was applying to these schools to get to where I want to be. So there was still of grinding and hustling was something, instilled me very young. And I think that's one thing that just kind of sets me apart from anybody else. I might not know everything. I might not be the best anything right away. But if anybody going to ask you, I'm going to find my way and I'm going to hustle through and grind it down and find a way to get there.
And I think that was clear through your resume, right? You hustled, you grind, because Neil, if you don't know this, Hampton is in the middle of sports nowhere. There are no professional sports teams around Hampton, Virginia. But what Demarieh did was he made it happen. He interned for SMU football. He interned for Mark Cuban Heroes Basketball Center, Position Sports, working with the Phoenix Raceway.
See all that.
Chicago. So he made it happen. He made his experiences happen. And so can you talk about how you did it? What are the strategies that you implemented to make it work? Because no, there aren't many sports teams near me, but I'm still going to work. I'm still going to intern. I'm still going to get experience. How?
It's just, like I said, connecting with those, your professors and people in the department where it's like, this is what you want to do with opportunities out there. Then I'm pretty grateful for Dr. Charlton for always, sending those emails saying, hey, this is an internship opportunity. And I just always made sure that I was doing something. And when it came to the Mark Heroes Basketball Center, I got that internship when over COVID. I was doing an interview, and it was this lady by the name of Miss Trina Terrell. Still know her till today. Probably gonna meet her for lunch before I head back. But she was like, I heard you want to work in sports. You want to you want to get an internship, and that was more so of a kind of facilities operations. I kind of helped like with the day-to-day, we did different food drives and things like that. So I done a lot there with them. And then when it came to after my freshman year, sophomore year, it was, all right, what's next? And then I had blessed the opportunity where my dad also still works with SMU football, and he knew I had, Texas is football country. So, being the only big D1 in like actual Dallas, it was a pretty cool experience to get to work with football operations, get that experience, still playing lacrosse at the time. So it's like I'm coming up to SMU, and it's like, all right, now I got to try to find some time to work out after that. And then I had the position sports one. I applied during my senior year, and there was a 10-week program where we met through people throughout the sports industry for 10 weeks. And I had the opportunity to, get selected and 3 other my fellows to internship with the Phoenix Raceway. And we actually probably had the best experience because we went from Monday to Monday, and we had a whole experience meeting with the Suns, Arizona Coyotes, now known as the Utah Hockey Club. And then, we were with NASCAR, the Phoenix Raceway with NASCAR from Wednesday to that Sunday and left on Monday. So I think the strategy really is just finding that time and, sometimes having to risk those times of going to hang out with friends if you have things that you want to achieve. And I think I still make that time of, hanging out with my friends. I don't think I really missed out on anything, especially at Hampton. One thing I always tell everybody, I think I lived my Hampton experience to the fullest. I don't think it was anything that I could say I didn't do. I even ran for the Mr. Hampton pageant. I got second, but it was a pretty cool experience. But when it comes to really just strategizing, it's just, one, what is your overall goal at hand? And then two, what are the steps and necessary things you're going to do to get that in place? And if that's, going on Teamworks Online and applying for 10 internships a day, stalking LinkedIn, seeing what they say might be some good job opportunities available. So I think it's a lot of things you can do when it comes to strategizing, like the necessary things you need to get to that next level.
Let me back up for a minute. So you're in sales. Mm-hmm. You're at school at Hampton University. Did you think that sales was where you were going to land? Because, Dr. G and I talk to a lot of students, and sometimes when we do speak to them, and I talk to a lot of them in class, sometimes they look down on sales as, somehow or another, sales is a second-class citizen. I don't agree. But so tell me a little bit about, your decision to go into sales. And then I also want to hear what your day-to-day is like.
Okay, got you. So what kind of drove me to sales is after I finished my internship with Chicago Bulls, and I think just, most people in the sports industry that I talked to, they was like, sales is kind of like your way in, and once you get in, that's kind of when you maneuver.
You bet.
So I basically just applied for multiple sales jobs and positions I've seen, and actually heard back from the Atlanta Hawks and the Memphis Grizzlies, and my former manager, who's now the director of ticket sales and service, now with the Blue Coats, he reached out to me on LinkedIn saying, hey, do you want to hear about this experience with New Jersey Devils? And in my mind, I'm like, this has to be a scam with all the LinkedIn messages you get. I'm like, no way he's reaching out. Like, this random guy's just reaching out to me about a LinkedIn position with New Jersey Devils with a hockey team that I know clearly nothing about. But I'm always with the mindset of, never leave that door closed. So you just want to make sure to take the opportunity at hand. So I had a quick call with my manager, Colin, at the time, and had that experience. And I really just saw an opportunity of me to grow into an industry, get my kind of first job out of college with a professional hockey team. Like you saw, I worked with a professional basketball team in NBA. I worked with a college football team. So I pretty much had a full rim of things when it came to, different avenues and organizations. So I'm like, hey, I'll just take this opportunity. And fun fact, I went through 3 interviews and I got the offer I got the offer on a Wednesday, and I was flying to Atlanta that Friday to go meet with the Hawks. So I had to let her know. Her name's Whitley Neese. She's like the director of our department. I'm like, hey, when I got to give you an answer by? I'm like, I'm going to Atlanta. I had the flight booked and everything. She's like, you got till Saturday, because it was a quick turnaround, and I'll go back to that when I finish this. But I went to the Hawks, did everything there, went well, did like the multiple interviews, and they said, yeah, good job, everybody. Y'all here back in 2 weeks. And in my mind, I'm like, I have a for sure yes on the table. Why would I take away a for sure yes for maybe? And I let them know that day I was going to take the job with them. And I had 13 days to figure out where I was going to live, how I was going to get down there, and figure everything out. But it ended up working out, and I got moved out to Philly and been working with the Devils ever since. And to answer your second question, my typical day-to-day is I'm coming in usually. It's one of those jobs they say, and it was pretty said early that, the more time you put in, like the input is going to resonate to your output. So I usually try to get in like 8:30, just check my emails, make sure everything's squared away. And then, by 9 o'clock or even 8:50, I'm going ahead. We have our cadences lined up on Salesforce, and, I'm probably calling that probably from 9 to probably like 11 o'clock. And then I hit some more of my important buckets. That could be, some people that had interest in our Black and Red membership, which is our full season memberships. I know right now a big goal with us were to try to get some of our group deposits on the board for group priorities as well. And then lunch, we got lunch from 12 to 1, and then from 1 to 5, I'm basically back on the phones. And of course, it's meetings throughout that time as well. Probably it could be our overall ticket and service meeting. It could be a one-on-one with my manager. It could be a morning hustle meeting. It's really just kind of depends on the day. And then like on a game day, I'll kind of describe that as well. A little bit of same thing. The van, depending on the time, the van might leave at 9. If it's a Sunday game, the game's at 1. We could leave at 7:30 to head up. And then as soon as we get up there, we have our game day meeting, kind of just going over. Every department pretty much gives a update of what's going on and like expectation of the game. And then we have something called shot calls, where basically, everybody kind of says like, oh, I'm going to sell 2 seats for 4.9 today, or like, oh, I got 1 group deposit today. And that's like a pretty cool, pretty cool morale to say like, all right, let's see if you get it done. And then also our director of group sales, Matt Julian, he always does puns of the different teams that we play. So that's like a pretty cool experience as well. So
give me a Panther pun. I'm a Panther fan.
Now you put me on the spot there. But I can say I know when I'm on the concourse kind of working the games, depending on the mascot, I think when we played the Bruins, I was like, watch out on the ground, ladies and gentlemen. We got bear traps on the ground. Watch out. We got playing the Bruins tonight. So that kind of like gets people a little smiling on the ground and stuff. Now, I think with the pants, it's time to put the pants in the case tonight, ladies and gentlemen. That was kind of the ones we used to use. So it's a fun environment. I love working with the team.
And talking about fun, what I love about your journey is that you were open-minded when it came to sales. So you're like, okay, so sales is the door. That's the door to the sport industry. Okay, I want to go through it. But then I have so many students at Temple University. It's like, yeah, I know sales is the door, but I'm not taking a sales job. I want to try to go marketing. I'm going to try to go a different route. But from hearing your day-to-day, you just said you love game days. You just talked about a lot of fun things. So what would you tell the students that are a little skeptical to go through that sales door as the first route?
I'm gonna be completely honest. I think the more jobs that you like are the ones that you're not going to get, because I think those are the harder ones to get. And one thing I really do appreciate with the New Jersey Devils and like our management team and our leadership, they understand that some people know that sales isn't their end goal, but they really want to help us to get to that next level. That's whatever we want to do. So yes, exactly. I had the opportunity to shadow with somebody in hockey ops, another division. I had the opportunity to shadow with somebody in event operations if that's a route I want to go. So I would say if you're kind of steered away from it, and me, when I first started sales, I'm not the best at math. I'm about to be doing a whole bunch of crunching numbers. I don't want to do that. But once I got a real idea of what it is, I'm like, I'm really just going to be talking to people, try to get them to buy. I can talk all day. That's easy. So, and you really get to show your personality. And I remember we had in our onboard, we had like a pitch competition, and I was over, and we did one where it was over. I was in the other room on the phone, and then everybody else was listening in. And the manager over our account executive team, he pulled me aside. He was like, hey man, I didn't want to say it in front of everybody, but you sounded really corny on the phone. I was like, wow. He was, and he told me that we hired you to be you, and show your personality. Don't try to, use this quote unquote like phone voice when you're on the phone. Like, we hired you to be you. And I think that kind of put my mind at ease a little bit too, where, I don't have to change up how I talk. I can be my 100% natural self when I'm having these conversations. And, like I said, I play lacrosse, so the game of hockey wasn't hard to learn when it comes to how it's played. I would say it was more so just like the knowledge of like the players and like what's going on in the league. So, and I think I also like that as well, because just like lacrosse, I get to take that time to learn another sport and learn something else and continue to like brighten my horizon and say, for if I go for a promotion or I go for another job somewhere else, I have that wheel and say, hey, I had internships here. And then I end up having my first job in hockey. Like, I've had experience in all these avenues. So the students that's kind of trying to steer away from it, keep that open mind. And, if it's opportunity out there, and, I would say take it and get that experience. And, it's usually a year road. And if you see yourself not doing that long term, that's fine. I would say, every organization is not the same. But speaking for the Devils, I know if this wasn't something I want to do long term, I can let them know, and they'll help me, strive and, put me in front of the right people to introduce myself to get to that next level that I want to be at.
Demarieh, this is going to be your first experience with the Stanley Cup playoffs, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'm a hockey fan and a lifelong hockey fan, and I'm also a Panthers season ticket holder. Nice. So I can tell you that I think there are very few experiences in sports, although there's a lot of good ones, and you've talked about them, more so than attending a Stanley Cup playoff hockey game, whether it's the first round or the finals. It's just so exciting from start to finish. I think you're going to really enjoy that part of your job.
Nah, yeah, I'm excited. I know they always talked about when we played the Rangers in the first round, and That's the across the water rivals.
Rangers are
Everybody.
gone. Who are you playing in
Yeah.
the first round now?
We played the Hurricanes first round, so tough task.
Ooh, they're like one of the favorites.
Yeah, it's a tough task. That with Jack Hughes hurt right now, it's definitely going to be a little bit tough.
Yes.
But I believe we're getting Dougie Hamilton back for the playoffs, so that's a pretty good morale boost. So I believe games are going to be starting next week, and I think we have game 3 and 4 on Friday and Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm excited to see, and I think just seeing hockey, I definitely tell even all my friends, even who've been to the game, it's definitely a game that you watch in person and really get like a good feel because one, the atmosphere, and you see everything going on, like how fast they're moving on ice. There's definitely a lot of skill, being put in place when it comes to watching those games. And I think, when it comes to the Four Nation tournament, I think that got a lot of people tuned in
to
hockey when the USA played Canada. Even I remember my friends were like, it was three fights at the beginning. Like,
oh my
wow.
God, it was the most incredible thing I've ever seen in hockey.
What's going on?
I've been watching hockey since I was like 12.
Yeah, so I even told them to make sure they tuned in for the championship game when we played Canada, and it was a good game all the way down to the wire. I ended up losing, I believe, in overtime, but I think I think that really put hockey, I wouldn't say on the map, but it definitely opened up the eyes to hockey to people that probably don't watch it as much.
I'll bet you could have called people during the 4 seasons and sold a bunch of season ticket packages.
Nah, for sure. I was definitely on our sales line, seeing if somebody was trying to call in, asking, you always love the people that just either call in or email.
You bet.
Like, hey, I want to buy season tickets. Those are, sometimes the best, sometimes with sales, sometimes you got to grind out some, but, sometimes it is just pure luck that you'll drop into your lap and you got to be grateful for all those, options.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I want to go back just a little bit in your journey because it's so rich to me because
Me too.
Because again, I came from Hampton University and I don't think I even had half of the experiences that you had, honestly. So I'm just very proud. I'm also proud that you won Best Dress because I also won Best Dress. So it's what we do.
Dr.
Anyways,
G, did you know this Dr. Charlton that Demarieh mentioned?
Yeah. Dr. Ralph Charlton was one of my professors. He's one of the few that's still there.
Okay.
And so you said you learned a lot from Dr. Charlton. What are the key skills or just even a comment or just anything that Dr. Ralph Charlton did? Let's give him his flowers for just a second. That really helps you to this day or even helped you get that first job in sports.
I think when it came to Dr. Charlton, I think he was probably one of the most impactful people when it came to my Hampton experience just because, I pretty much had him in a class every year. And actually my freshman year, I was in a junior, senior class, and I don't think he realized until like then, especially he was like, well, you're a freshman? He was like, well, you have a 90 in this class, so you're fine. But he always said, I think something that sticks with me where it's not like the biggest thing, but he always tells everybody this. He was like, I'm always going to remember Demarieh because he's the only person that talked in class during COVID. So, that was pretty cool that, he knew me by name. He calls me D, my nickname. So, we got a pretty good relationship there. But I knew I could pretty much go to him about, anything when it came to like career-wise or, different opportunities. I'm like, hey, you think this would be a good fit for me? Like, what do you feel about this, opportunity right here? Or like even with my my second semester, my senior year, we had to do all I had to do was an internship. And I ended up not getting this one internship in Norfolk. He ended up connecting me with Coach Rose. He was a assistant director of athletics at the school. He was like, hey, Coach Rose needs some help. You can get some hours there working, basketball games, softball games. And I didn't play lacrosse my senior year, so I was actually the spotter for the person taking stats as well. But, I really appreciate Dr. Charlton for everything he's done, for me. And he's always, like I said, he's always sending out those internship opportunities. And anytime I needed a letter a recommendation, he was the first person I went to, even with the Bulls. I remember I sent him over. I'm like, hey, can you do this for me? I think even with Position Sports, he put in a good word for me as well because he had that, existing relationship. And I know I can email to him this day and just kind of check in and see how things are going. So I really do, thank and appreciate Dr. Charlton, for things he done for me to help me, get to where I need to be. He was the person that put in my ear that he thought I would be good at sales. And I think I'm doing pretty all right now.
Sounds like it.
Shout out to Dr. Ralph Charlton and really talking more about what Hampton University has done for you is that you get those professor connections that you may not be able to get at a PWI, right? I had a Dr. Livingston. I had a Dr. Charlton that knew my name and told me that I was going to be a professor when I didn't even think about getting my PhD, right? And so they are really key to our success. So just shout out to them. I have to just give them their flowers now, and the illustrious Hampton University. But what I think I love the most about your journey is how open-minded you are. You went into hockey.
The say yes mode.
The say yes mode. You traveled for opportunities. You're originally from Dallas. You went to Hampton University. You had an internship in Phoenix. You had an internship in Chicago. So you clearly understood that if I'm going to get sport experiences at an HBCU, I need to be creative. So you traveled. And so can you talk about students that are skeptical about leaving home for new experiences? How can you help them be more open to travel for opportunities?
I would say the more you like broaden your horizon, the better of like, people that you will meet and the more experience that you get at hand. Like I know home is always a safety net. And I'm granted to be being from Dallas, which you have every major sports team you can think of. And, I could have just played it safe, like, hey, I can just find something in Dallas and, be good. But I kind of wanted to just break away to kind of show people that I can do things outside of where I'm from. And, the connections I do have, like I said, my dad works at SMU. I'm in his office right now. So that's why I'm saying I got a connection there. But, sometimes I did want to, find some things I can do on my own and branch out to say, like, I did this. Like I built out my resume. I had people help me look over there. Like I did this interview one-on-one. This is somebody that nobody has a connection to. I just, did my homework, grinded out, and make sure to get to the position I am today. But I would say it's good to branch out into those different environments. I know friends that applied for the NBA fellowship this year, and I told them, don't get an internship where you're from. Like, try to branch out, get in those different environments, be in an uncomfortable situation. And I think one thing that did help for me being in Chicago, it prepared me to be in an environment where once you leave college, you're not around your friends anymore every day. You can't just say, hey, I'm about to go to my friend's TJ house. I'm about to go to my friend Justin, Ryan, Jordan's house. I can't do that. So it prepared me where I go to work, go home, and it's like, that's it. Like there's nothing else to do. And granted, I did have a good one of my line brothers in Chicago. I had some other friends from Chicago. So but they have their own lives. They're working. They're doing internships. So it also prepares you for that life after college when you are in an environment where you kind of quote unquote by yourself. Like yes, you might have friends, people from the area, but they have their own life. I stay across the street from my line brother in Philadelphia right now. But he's studying for the LSAT, so I don't see him that much sometimes because he's preparing for do things like preparing himself for life after he finishes and trying to get into law school. So I always say the brighter you get out there, like the better, because you open your eyes up to a whole new group of people, a whole new environment. Because Dallas is a 19-hour drive away from Hampton. Didn't have any family out there, just a couple people. My teammate I committed with, and one of my close friends that I met through Dallas, and then different group chats as well. So I also think, just the technology, be able to meet different people throughout those times. So, you got to branch out.
Okay, so we're tuned into My First Job in Sports, of course, the show that, is designed to help students that are currently looking to get a job in sports from the people that have a job in sports. Demarieh, clearly you are one of those people that has a job in sports. He's a sales associate for the New Jersey Devils. So here's our last segment, because we could talk to you for a long time. This thing could go on for an hour, but I know we can't do that. So my last question is, what would be your last piece of advice you would give to outgoing students that are interested in getting into the business of sports?
I would say don't be afraid to branch out to something that might not be your strong suit right now, or something that you're interested in right now. I think when it comes to sports, it is one of those things where who and you kind of have to get your foot in your door and maneuver throughout, because sports is big but small at the same time. Because even when I was applying with the New Jersey Devils, they're like, oh, did you work with so-and-so when you were at the Bulls? Did you meet her? I'm like, yeah, I know her. So being able to build those connections and being able to, excel forward when it comes to applying, to these jobs, sometimes the jobs that aren't the brightest are the ones that people are going to respect you more for, because everybody knows what goes into the sale and the whole work that you have to put in when it comes to, working, the long hours. I work in a sport where it's 41 home games in the season. So they understand like the rigorous task of being able to continue your day-to-day, make those calls, make those sales, send out those email, and still that same day, you might still have a game that you had to hit, but you still have to hit your game day minimum of 75 calls and 30 minutes of talk time. And I believe that if you really want to get in this industry, it's going to take some sacrifice, especially early on, especially if you want to work in a sport like, that has a lot of games like hockey or basketball. Football 16, 17 games, but I know it's still probably a lot more that really goes into that when it comes to off-season planning. But be prepared to, grind out sometimes, work some of those late nights. Be prepared to sacrifice some of your weekends where, some friends going out on a Saturday where it's like, oh, we got a game at 3:00. I won't be back home till 8:00. So I know everything's going to be done. And know what you want your overall goal to be. And that should be your motivation to strive forward, because even when it does get hard and you have a week, you have a full day, you calling people, no one's answering, you're getting hung up on, you got people mad that the team's not doing as well as they think you are. Just be mindful that, one, that you're trying to build lifelong experience with people, and two, you're working in a sport that a lot of people want to do and would beg and do it for free to have your job. So if there's anything to kind of motivate you to, move forward and like when it gets hard, know that you're working in professional sports, and I promise you there's somebody right behind you that will do your job for free no matter how hard it is.
Demarieh is somebody that's been in the sports business for over 25 years, and I know that gives away my age a little bit. I can tell you I see great things in your future because there's so many things that you've talked about today that Dr. G and I like to talk about when we speak to students, whether it's networking, whether it's finding the right mentor, whether it's getting the right internship, whether it's, say yes, to opportunity instead of no. Whether it's not being afraid to go into a sport that, hey, maybe you don't even know anything about or really had no interest in until it kind of came to you. And I for one, I can see great things again for you in the sports business. I want to thank you for coming on My First Job in Sports with Dr. G and myself. I'm hoping we're going to talk to you a little bit about later on about coming to Over My Shoulder, the Get in the Game event, which is not too far. It's a short drive to Baltimore.
Okay. I drove last year, so just a short drive. We can carpool if we need to.
That's not far. Baltimore like an hour 30. I can do that. That's not bad.
We're gonna need to talk to this Dr. Charlton at some point. I'm gonna have to let's say leverage either Dr. G here or you, Demarieh, to help me get into the Dr. Charlton. But again, Dr. G and I, Demarieh, want to thank you for coming on My First Job in Sports. You've been terrific with your time, and I think with the things that you've told students. So thanks again.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for tuning in to My First Job in Sports. This show has been produced by Brad Mabey. Back episodes can be found at sportsmarketanalytics.com, on the SBRnet YouTube channel, or all major podcast platforms. If you like the show, give us a great review. Also, you can follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, or X.